The message that changed everything. Marcus Chen stared at the holographic message floating above his wrist communicator. The blue text seemed to mock him as he read it for the third time in the bustling corridor of Stellarport Station. Can't make it tonight. Family emergency. Sorry, Marcus. 6 months of planning, 3 weeks of nervous anticipation, and 2 hours of getting ready, all reduced to 11 words. His friend Jake had sworn this blind date would be perfect. She's brilliant, funny, and you two have so much in common, Jake had insisted. Trust me on this one. Marcus adjusted his civilian jacket, feeling oddly exposed without his old military gear. After 15 years in the Colonial Space Marines, retirement still felt like wearing someone else's clothes. The station's artificial gravity hummed beneath his feet as merchants, travelers, and workers flowed around him like a river of different species and cultures. A walk in artificial rain. The observation deck offered a view of the gas giant below, its swirling clouds painted in shades of amber and violet. Marcus had planned to bring his date here after dinner. Now it just felt empty. As he walked toward the residential sectors, the station's weather system activated its evening cycle. Gentle precipitation began falling from hidden nozzles in the ceiling, designed to simulate natural rain and help with air filtration. The artificial droplets caught the neon lights from shop signs and created tiny rainbows in the recycled atmosphere. That's when he heard it. A soft sound that made his trained ears prick up. Someone was crying, trying to muffle the sound but not quite succeeding. Discovery in the shadows. Following the sound, Marcus found himself in a quieter section near the cargo bays. Behind a stack of shipping containers, he discovered them. A woman and 2 small children huddled together on a maintenance platform. The woman was unlike anyone he'd ever seen. Her skin held a subtle shimmer that caught the station's lights like scattered stardust. Delicate leaf-like patterns traced along her arms and face in soft green hues that seemed to pulse gently with her breathing. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and when she looked up at his approach, her eyes were the deep purple of nebulae he'd seen in deep space. But it was her expression that stopped him cold. Pure exhaustion mixed with protective determination as she held her children close. First contact. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice carrying a melodic quality that spoke of wind through alien forests. "We didn't mean to disturb anyone. We'll move." "No need to move," Marcus said gently, keeping his distance but crouching down to appear less threatening. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" The 2 children pressed closer to their mother. The boy appeared to be 6, with the same shimmering skin as his mother, but in blue-green tones. His eyes held old wisdom beyond his years. The girl, younger and more delicate, had skin that shifted between pale gold and soft pink, like a sunset on an ocean world. "Mama, who is that?" the little girl whispered. "I'm Marcus," he said softly. "I was just walking by and heard, I wondered if everything was okay." The story unfolded. The woman, who introduced herself as Lyra Starweaver, hesitated before the whole story poured out. She was a xenobotanist working on the station's agricultural levels. Her ex-partner was supposed to collect their children for his scheduled visit, but he sent a last-minute cancellation. Again. "It's the 4th time in 2 months," she explained, her voice breaking slightly. "Kale and Luna keep asking when Papa is coming, and I keep making excuses." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He'd seen that look before, on the faces of military families when deployments ran long, when promises got broken by circumstances beyond anyone's control. An unexpected invitation. "Have you eaten?" Marcus asked suddenly. "I know a place that serves the best fusion cuisine this side of the Alpha Quadrant. Very family-friendly." Lyra blinked in surprise. "We couldn't impose." "I was going to dinner anyway," Marcus said with a gentle smile. "My plan's just, well, simplified. And honestly, I'd rather have dinner with interesting company than eat alone." Little Luna tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mama, I'm hungry, and he seems nice." Cale studied Marcus with serious eyes. "Are you a soldier?" "You stand like the guards." "Former soldier. Now I fix things that break on the station. Much less exciting, but the hours are better." Building trust. As they walked through the station's corridors toward the restaurant district, Marcus kept the conversation light. He learned that Lyra's people, the Verdani, were plant symbiotic beings who joined the Galactic Coalition only 30 years ago. She'd come to the station as part of an agricultural exchange program and stayed when she fell in love with a fellow scientist. "That didn't work out as planned," she said with a rueful smile. "Plans rarely do," Marcus replied, "but sometimes what actually happens is better than what you planned." The children walked between them, Luna gradually becoming more talkative, while Cale maintained his protective vigilance. Marcus found himself charmed by their mix of childish wonder and premature responsibility. As they reached the restaurant, a cozy establishment called Harmony's Kitchen that specialized in dishes from dozens of worlds, Marcus realized his ruined evening might just be turning into something much better than he had ever planned.
Welcome to Harmony's Kitchen. The restaurant's warm amber lighting created a cozy atmosphere that immediately put everyone at ease. Harmony's Kitchen was exactly the kind of place Marcus had hoped to avoid on a first date. Too casual, too family-oriented, too real. Now he couldn't imagine anywhere more perfect. The proprietor, a cheerful Zenturian named Kai with 4 arms that moved in perfect coordination, greeted them enthusiastically. "Marcus, good to see you, friend. And what beautiful guests you've brought." "Kai, meet Lyra and her children, Kyle and Luna," Marcus said as they were led to a corner booth with cushioned seats that could accommodate different body types. Luna's eyes went wide as she watched Kai effortlessly balance multiple plates while wiping down their table. "How do you do that?" she asked in wonder. "Practice, little starlight," laughed Kai. "When you have 4 arms, you learn to use them all. Would you like to see the children's menu? It has pictures that move." Breaking the ice. As they settled into the booth, Marcus noticed how Lyra unconsciously positioned herself where she could see all the exits, a habit he recognized from his own military training. Survival instincts ran deep, even in civilians. "So, xenobotany, that means you work with alien plants, right?" "I study how different plant species can be adapted for space stations and colony worlds," Lyra explained, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "My current project involves developing crops that can grow in artificial gravity and recycled atmospheres." Kyle perked up. "Mama grows the prettiest flowers in the whole station. They sing when the lights change." "They don't actually sing," Lyra corrected gently, though she smiled at her son's enthusiasm. "They produce harmonic vibrations in response to different light spectrums. It's a communication method from their homeworld." "That's incredible," Marcus said genuinely. "I've always been fascinated by how life adapts to new environments. In my military days, I saw worlds where evolution had taken the most amazing turns." Sharing stories. As their food arrived, a colorful array of dishes that represented a dozen different worlds, the conversation flowed more easily. Lyra discovered that Marcus had visited 17 different planets during his service, and she peppered him with questions about alien animals and strange weather patterns. On Kepler 442b, it rains upward 3 days every month. The magnetic fields are so strong that water droplets get pulled into the sky instead of falling down. That's silly, Luna giggled. Rain is supposed to fall. Tell that to the Keplerian flowers, Marcus winked. They've evolved to catch the upward rain with special cup-shaped leaves. Lyra watched this exchange with growing warmth. It had been so long since someone had spoken to her children with genuine interest rather than polite obligation. Deeper connections. As the children became absorbed in their color-changing desserts, Lyra found herself really talking to Marcus. Not the careful, surface-level conversation she'd grown used to, but real communication. "You're good with them," she said quietly. "Not many humans understand how to interact with Verdani children." "They're just kids," Marcus replied. "Species doesn't matter when it comes to curiosity and imagination." He paused, then added more seriously, "My sister has 2 boys back on Earth. I haven't seen them in 3 years." "Why not?" Marcus stirred his coffee, considering his words. "After my wife died, I threw myself into my work, took the most dangerous assignments, the longest deployments. When I finally came back to Earth for her memorial service, I realized I'd become a stranger to my own family." Lyra's expression softened. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you. It was 5 years ago, but, well, grief doesn't follow a schedule." He looked at her children, then back at her. "What about your ex-partner? Does he visit often?" The truth about Razek. Lyra's luminescent patterns dimmed slightly, a sign of distress that Marcus was beginning to recognize. "Razek is complicated. He's a brilliant scientist, but he never really adapted to parenthood. When the children were born, he became obsessed with his research, saying he needed to make important discoveries to secure their future." "But he wasn't securing their present," Marcus observed. "Exactly." Lyra's voice carried years of frustration. "He took a position on the research station at Proxima Centauri 2 years ago. Promised it was temporary. Then he met Dr. Selena Vega, a human astrophysicist. Suddenly his temporary assignment became permanent, and his family became inconvenient." Kyle looked up from his dessert. "Papa says his work is more important than playing games with us." The matter-of-fact way the 6-year-old said it broke Marcus's heart. He'd seen too many military families torn apart by similar priorities. "Well," Marcus said, leaning forward conspiratorially, "I think playing games is extremely important work. In fact, I'm conducting a research project on the aerodynamic properties of paper airplanes. I could use some assistance." Luna bounced in her seat. "I know how to fold paper. Mama taught me." "Excellent. We'll need someone with advanced folding techniques." As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying the company. Lyra's intelligence shone through when she described her work, her eyes lighting up as she explained how she had successfully adapted Earth orchids to thrive in Martian soil. The children's energy was infectious, and their obvious love for their mother touched something deep in Marcus's chest. The walk home. When they finally left the restaurant, the station's night cycle had begun. The lighting had dimmed to soft blues and purples, simulating twilight. As they walked towards the residential sector, Luna began to tire, and without thinking, Marcus offered to carry her. "I can walk," she mumbled, but her eyelids were already drooping. "I know you can, but sometimes it's nice to rest while someone else does the walking." Luna curled against his shoulder with complete trust, and Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years, the simple contentment of being needed. Lyra watched this interaction with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. When their eyes met, she quickly looked away, but not before he caught a glimpse of something that might have been hope. "This wasn't how I expected my evening to go,"
she said softly as they reached her apartment complex. Better or worse than expected? Marcus asked, still holding the sleeping Luna. Different, but sometimes different is exactly what you need.
An unexpected call. 3 days after their impromptu dinner, Marcus was deep in the bowels of the station's environmental systems, replacing a faulty atmospheric processor when his communicator chimed urgently. Grease-stained and sweating, he almost ignored it until he saw Lyra's identification code. "Marcus!" Her voice crackled through the comm, strain evident even through the static. "I know this is presumptuous, but I have an emergency at the agricultural lab. A contamination breach in Sector 7, and my childcare arrangements just fell through. I wouldn't ask, but—" "Where are the kids?" Marcus interrupted, already gathering his tools. "They're at the community center on level 12, but it closes in an hour and this crisis could take all night. If you can't, I understand, but I'm on my way." Stepping up. 20 minutes later, Marcus arrived at the community center, still wearing his work coveralls, his hair damp from a quick wash in the maintenance bay. Kale and Luna were sitting quietly in a corner, clearly trying to be invisible as other children were picked up around them. Luna's face lit up when she saw him. "Marcus, did you come to play with us?" "Actually, I came to take you home," Marcus said, crouching down to their level. "Your mama has to work late tonight, so I'm going to make sure you're safe and fed until she gets back." Kale studied him with those serious eyes. "Mama asked you to watch us?" "She did. Is that okay with you?" He considered this carefully, then nodded. "You carried Luna when she was tired. You're safe." Back at Lyra's apartment, Marcus discovered that caring for Verdani children involved unique challenges. Their skin patterns grew brighter when they were excited or upset, and dimmer when they were tired or sad. Luna's golden hues flickered nervously when she couldn't find her favorite stuffed creature, a plush being from her mother's homeworld that looked like a cross between a butterfly and a flower. "It's called a flutterbloom," Kale explained as they searched. "Papa gave it to her before he went away. She can't sleep without it." They found it wedged behind the couch, and Marcus watched Luna's skin immediately shift to warm, contented tones as she hugged the toy close. "Crisis averted," Marcus murmured, making a mental note about the importance of bedtime routines. Bedtime stories and confessions. After dinner, a simple meal of synthesized proteins and Verdani fruit that tasted like honey and starlight, the children settled in for their evening routine. Marcus found himself reading from a collection of interstellar fairy tales, his voice growing gentler as Luna curled up beside him, and even serious Kale relaxed against the cushions. "Tell us about the war," Kale said suddenly, as Marcus finished a story about a brave asteroid miner. "Kale," Luna whispered, "Mama says we don't ask about sad things." "It's okay," Marcus said, setting the book aside. "What do you want to know?" "Were you scared?" the boy asked. Marcus considered lying, giving them a sanitized version of heroic soldiers who never felt fear. Instead, he chose honesty. "Yes, I was scared. Being scared doesn't make you weak. It makes you careful. It helps you protect the people you care about." "Like how Mama gets scared when Papa doesn't come visit us?" The innocent question hit Marcus harder than any enemy fire ever had. "Something like that. Yes." A late-night crisis. Around midnight, Marcus's communicator buzzed. Lyra's voice was exhausted but relieved. "The contamination is contained, but I need to run decontamination protocols for another 3 hours. How are they?" "Asleep for the past 2 hours. They're perfect, Lyra. Take the time you need." I can't thank you enough, Marcus. This kind of emergency could have cost me my job if I'd had to leave. That's what friends do, Marcus said, though the word friends felt inadequate for the warmth spreading through his chest. After ending the call, he found himself standing in the doorway of the children's room, watching them sleep. Luna had kicked off her covers, and her skin glowed softly in the darkness like captured starlight. Cale slept with one arm protectively stretched toward his sister, even in dreams maintaining his role as guardian. Morning revelations. Marcus woke up on the couch to the smell of brewing kava and the soft sound of Lyra moving around the kitchen. Dawnlight filtered through the apartment's viewport, casting everything in golden hues. He found her preparing breakfast, her movements graceful and purposeful. "Good morning," she said softly, not wanting to wake the children. "How did you sleep?" "Like a rock. How about you? Get any rest at all?" "A few hours." She handed him a steaming mug. "Marcus, what you did last night, taking care of them like that, it means more than you know." Their fingers brushed as he took the cup, and neither of them pulled away immediately. The contact sent a warm jolt up Marcus's arm, and he saw Lyra's luminescent patterns brighten slightly in response. "I enjoyed it," I said honestly. "They're amazing kids, Lyra. You've raised them well." "Mostly by myself," she admitted, then caught herself. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound bitter." "You don't sound bitter. You sound like someone who's been carrying a heavy load alone for too long." Before either of them could overthink it, Marcus reached up and gently touched her face. Her skin was warm and incredibly soft, and the luminescent patterns under his fingers seemed to respond to his touch, growing brighter. "Is this okay?" he whispered. Instead of answering, she leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttering closed. When she opened them, they held a vulnerability that took his breath away. The kiss was gentle, tentative at first, then deeper as they both realized how much they'd been wanting this moment. Lyra's patterns pulsed with soft light, and Marcus could taste starlight and honey on her lips. When they broke apart, both were breathless. "Papa never made Mama glow like that." They sprang apart to find Cale standing in the kitchen doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes and regarding them with scientific curiosity rather than upset. "Good morning, little guardian," Marcus said, his face warm with embarrassment. "Are you going to be our new papa?" Luna asked, appearing beside her brother with her flutter bloom clutched tight. Lyra's patterns dimmed with sudden panic, but Marcus knelt down to the children's level. "I'm going to be whatever your mama wants me to be, and whatever makes you feel safe and happy. That might take some time to figure out. Is that okay?" Both children considered this with the seriousness of seasoned diplomats. Then Cale nodded. "You make good breakfast, and you don't leave when things get hard." "No," Marcus said, meeting Lyra's eyes over their heads. "I don't leave when things get hard." The morning light caught in Lyra's silver hair, and her patterns glowed with something that looked very much like hope. The unexpected return. 2 weeks of blissful routine shattered when Marcus arrived at Lyra's apartment for their planned family dinner and found chaos instead. Through the door, he could hear raised voices, one familiar and melodious, the other deeper and sharply resonant. "You can't just disappear for months and then demand to take them," Lyra's voice carried a note of desperation Marcus had never heard before. "They are my offspring too, Lyra. The courts gave me visitation rights." The male voice held an authority that set Marcus's teeth on edge. "My research has reached a critical phase. The children would benefit from seeing real scientific achievement." Marcus pressed the door chime, and the arguing stopped abruptly. When the door slid open, Lyra stood there with her luminescent patterns flickering erratically, a sign of extreme distress. Behind her stood a tall Verdani male with deep emerald skin patterns and the bearing of someone accustomed to having his commands obeyed. This had to be Razek. Confrontation. "Marcus," Lyra breathed, relief evident in her voice. "This is unexpected timing." Razek's eyes, silver, fixed on Marcus with calculated interest. "Ah, the new companion. I've heard about you from the children during our communication calls. A former soldier, isn't that right?" "Retired," Marcus said carefully, stepping into the apartment. Behind Razek, he could see Kale and Luna huddled together on the couch, their own patterns dim with confusion and fear. How convenient for Lyra to find someone so protective. Razek's tone made it sound like an insult. "Tell me, soldier, what do you know about raising Verdani children? Do you understand their metabolic needs, their educational requirements, their cultural heritage?" "I understand they need love, stability, and adults who keep their promises," Marcus replied evenly. "The rest can be learned." Razek's patterns flashed with irritation. Sentiment over science. How very human. The children's choice. "Papa, please don't fight," Luna's voice cut through the tension. She stood up from the couch, her flutterbloom clutched tightly. "We don't want to go to the scary research station. We want to stay home with Mama and Marcus." "The research station isn't scary, little flower," Razek said, his tone softening slightly. "It's where important work happens, work that will secure your future." "But you're never there when we call," Kale said with devastating directness. "Dr. Vega answers and says you're too busy. Marcus answers when we call him, even when he's working." The accusation hit home. Razek's patterns dimmed momentarily before flashing bright with defensive anger. "My research requires absolute focus. Children cannot understand." "Children understand being ignored," Marcus interrupted quietly. "I've seen it too many times in military families. The work becomes everything, and the family becomes an inconvenience." Rising tensions. "You know nothing about my situation." Razek stepped closer to Marcus, his height and presence intimidating. "You're a maintenance worker playing house with my family. This is a temporary fascination for both of you." "Stop!" Lyra moved between them, her patterns now pulsing with anger rather than distress. "Both of you, the children are watching." But the damage was escalating. Razek pulled out a legal pad, his movements sharp and aggressive. "I have court orders, Lyra. Either they come with me willingly for their scheduled month-long visitation, or I invoke my rights and take them anyway." "A month!" Lyra's voice cracked. "You haven't visited in 3 months, and now you want them for a month on a research station where they'll be strangers?" "The court order is legal," Razek said coldly, "unless you can prove I'm an unfit parent." The emergency call. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed everything in harsh red as an automated voice announced, "All citizens report to emergency stations. Reactor malfunction in progress. This is not a drill." Marcus's military training kicked in instantly. "Everyone stay calm. Lyra, where's the emergency kit?" But Razek was already moving toward the children. "I'm taking them to my ship. It's safer than the station." "No!" Luna screamed, running to Marcus and wrapping her arms around his legs. "I want to stay with Marcus!" The reactor alarm grew louder, and through the viewport they could see other ships beginning emergency departures. Marcus made a split-second decision. "Razek, if you care about them at all, we work together right now. My ship is docked closer than yours, and I know these emergency procedures better than anyone." For a moment, Razek hesitated, his scientific mind warring with his pride. Then another alarm joined the first, and his parental instincts won. "Very well, but this changes nothing about custody." Marcus scooped up Luna while Lyra gathered Kale and their emergency supplies. "Stay close to me," he told them all.
Emergency corridors are going to be chaos." He was right. The station's corridors were filled with panicking residents, some pushing toward ships, others heading for internal emergency shelters. Marcus's military bearing and confident navigation cut through the crowd like a blade, keeping their small group together. Revealing character. As they moved through the station, Marcus found himself grudgingly respecting Razek's quick thinking and protective instincts. When a panicked Zentorian knocked Luna down in their rush to escape, Razek was there instantly, helping her up and shielding her from the crowd. "Thank you," Luna whispered, and for just a moment, Razek's expression softened completely. "I may be a poor father sometimes, but I do love them," he said quietly to Marcus as they reached the docking bay. "Then prove it by doing what's best for them, not what's convenient for you," Marcus replied. The Resolution. Marcus's ship was a modified transport vessel, built for reliability rather than speed. As they lifted off from the station, joining the stream of emergency departures, the reactor crisis turned out to be a contained coolant leak rather than a catastrophic failure. But the shared danger had changed something fundamental between them all. Watching Marcus efficiently pilot them to safety while keeping the children calm and informed, Razek was forced to confront some uncomfortable truths about his own priorities. "You love them," he said to Marcus, as they waited for clearance to return to the station. "I do," Marcus answered without hesitation. "And they love you." Razek watched his children, who had fallen asleep curled against Marcus and Lyra. "When did I become the stranger in their lives?" "The day you decided your work mattered more than your presence," Marcus said, but not unkindly. "It's not too late to change that if you really want to." In the soft hum of the ship's engines, surrounded by the people who had become his unexpected family, Marcus realized that sometimes the biggest challenges reveal what matters most, and that sometimes even former enemies can become allies when children's well-being is at stake.
A Father's Awakening. 3 months after the reactor crisis, Razek made an unexpected decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He requested a transfer to a research position on New Horizon Station, giving up his prestigious posting at Proxima Centauri. "The children need their father," he told Lyra during one of their newly regular co-parenting meetings, "and I need to learn how to be the parent they deserve, not the absent scientist I've become." Marcus watched this transformation with cautious optimism. Razek began taking the children for regular weekend visits, actually spending time with them rather than parking them with babysitters while he worked. More importantly, he started showing up when he promised to. "Papa taught me about stellar cartography," Kyle announced after one such visit, his patterns bright with excitement. "And we built a model of a neutron star." "That sounds amazing," Marcus said, and meant it. Seeing the children happy with both their father and their chosen family filled a space in his heart he hadn't realized was empty. The proposal. On a quiet evening 6 months later, Marcus found himself nervously pacing Lyra's apartment while she put the children to bed. In his pocket sat a small box containing something he'd had specially crafted on the artisan level of the station. When Lyra emerged from the children's room, her silver hair catching the soft ambient lighting, Marcus's carefully rehearsed speech evaporated. "Lyra," he began, then stopped. "I had this whole thing planned out. Speeches and perfect timing and—" "Marcus," she stepped closer, her patterns glowing with gentle amusement. "What's wrong? You look terrified." "I am terrified," he admitted with a laugh. "Terrified that you'll think I'm moving too fast, or that this is too complicated with Razek and the custodial arrangements, or that—" She silenced him with a kiss, soft and warm, and tasting of the kava they'd shared after dinner. "Ask me,"
she whispered against his lips. Marcus pulled out the small box with hands that had remained steady during firefights, but now trembled slightly. Inside was a ring unlike anything in human tradition, a delicate band of crystalline material that held captured light from 3 different stars, each representing a world where he'd served. "It's made from stellar crystal," he explained. "The light will never fade, just like how I hope you'll feel about us." "Oh, Marcus," Lyra breathed, her patterns pulsing with emotion. "Lyra Starweaver," he said, dropping to one knee, in the human tradition, while adapting the Verdani custom of showing open palms, "will you marry me? Will you let me be part of your family officially? Will you help me learn to be the husband and father you all deserve?" Before she could answer, 2 small faces appeared in the hallway. "Mama's crying happy tears," Luna announced with satisfaction. "Is that a yes?" Kyle asked with scientific curiosity. Lyra laughed through her tears, her entire being glowing like captured starlight. "Yes, yes to all of it." Planning a union. Planning an interspecies wedding on a space station proved to be an adventure in itself. Human traditions, Verdani customs, and station regulations created a complex web of requirements that would have challenged a diplomatic corps. So we need the human ceremony for legal recognition, the Verdani tree binding for cultural significance, and everything has to comply with station safety regulations, Marcus asked, reviewing their growing list of requirements. And Rozek wants to perform the traditional father's blessing. He's trying very hard to be supportive. Indeed, Rozek had surprised everyone with his enthusiasm for the union. "You make them happy," he had told Marcus simply. "That matters more than my pride." The ceremony. The wedding took place in the station's botanical gardens, where Lyra worked among the alien plants that had become her specialty. The space was transformed with bioluminescent flowers from a dozen different worlds, creating a natural cathedral of light and life. Marcus wore his dress uniform from his military days, the medals replaced with symbols of his new life, small pins representing each family member. Lyra was radiant in traditional Verdani marriage robes that seemed to be woven from moonbeams and starlight, her patterns glowing with joy. Kyle and Luna served as ring-bearers, their own ceremonial robes making them look like tiny royalty. They took their duties seriously, walking with grave dignity that dissolved into giggles when Luna's sleeve got caught on a singing flower. 2 ceremonies, 1 heart. The human ceremony was brief and official, conducted by Captain Rodriguez, the station's commanding officer. Traditional vows were exchanged, rings given, and legal documents signed. But it was the Verdani tree binding that moved everyone to tears. In this ancient ritual, the couple planted a seedling together, a hybrid tree that Lyra had developed that could thrive in artificial environments while maintaining the spiritual significance of its parent species. "As this tree grows, so grows our family," Lyra said, her hands and Marcus's together in the rich soil. "Roots deep, branches reaching for the stars." "Roots deep, branches reaching for the stars," Marcus repeated, the Verdani words feeling foreign but right on his tongue. "In unexpected blessings." Rozek stepped forward for the father's blessing, but his words surprised everyone. "I give my blessing not just to this union, but to the family you have already become," he said formally. "Marcus Chen, you have proven yourself a better father in months than I was in years. I trust my children's future to your care." Then, breaking with tradition, he added more quietly, "And I ask that you help me learn to be worthy of the title Father again." New Horizons. The reception was a joyful chaos of different species, foods, music, and customs. Marcus danced with Luna on his feet, while Lyra waltzed with Kael. Rozik, to everyone's amusement, attempted to learn human country dancing from some of Marcus's old Marine buddies. As the evening wound down, and they found themselves alone on their apartment balcony, looking out at the stars beyond the station's hull, Marcus marveled at how completely his life had changed. "Any regrets?" Lyra asked, settling against his side, her pattern soft and contented. "Just one," Marcus said, pulling her closer. "What's that?" "That I didn't get stood up sooner." Epilogue. 5 years later. The sound of children's laughter filled the larger apartment they'd moved into in the family sector. Kael, now 11, and showing his mother's scientific brilliance, was explaining stellar formation to his 3-year-old sister, Nova, whose skin patterns were a unique blend of her parents' genetics. Luna, at 9, was teaching Marcus to braid Verdani worry flowers while they waited for Lyra to return from her promotion ceremony. She'd just been named chief xenobotanist for the entire sector. Rozik visited every weekend, a dedicated father who had learned to balance his work with his family time. He and Marcus had developed an unlikely friendship, bonding over their shared desire to protect and nurture the children they both loved. "Papa Marcus," Nova said, climbing onto his lap with the casual affection of a child who had never known abandonment, "tell us the story about how you found Mama in the rain." "Again?" Marcus laughed, looking around at his family, chosen, blended, complicated, and absolutely perfect. Outside their viewport, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small human dramas playing out on a spinning station. But inside, in the warm glow of family and love, Marcus knew he'd found something more valuable than all the treasures of space, a home among the stars, and hearts that had chosen to beat in harmony with his own.